Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. And we're looking at the AP Top 25 college football poll, just like we do every single week. And we're super excited about this one because there was a ton of great games over the weekend that is really going to shape perhaps the college football playoffs, a couple months from now. And right now, there's a lot of movement in the top 25. When you look at the others receiving votes, Baylor falls out of the top 25 after a loss to another ranked team. Florida State loses to Wake Forest, falls down out of the top 25. Minnesota, a brief stint in the top 25 at 21. They fall out after losing to Purdue, who now has 2 votes into the top 25. There was a ton of movement this week, and I think it's really highlighted by number 25 as well. LSU gets the 4-point win over Auburn, and a team that, with new coaching there, has moved back up into the top 25. There was a lot of expectations coming into this year as they're starting to transform that program. Austin, what do you think about your LSU Tigers here at 25?
Yeah, I love that. LSU definitely has made some strides for sure, considering where they've been the last couple of seasons. They've had a hard time establishing the run, even with Butte out. I think that LSU is going to continue to progress. They're a program that's a perennial powerhouse. And I think that when you look at what they did for others receiving votes, a lot of this makes sense on what they did. It's tough for Arkansas, falling out completely. Oklahoma, what a big fall from grace there. I think Venable is going to have to clean up some things if he wants this team to buy in. Obviously, with Lincoln Riley being gone, it definitely has changed the entire complexion of this program.
It certainly has. And as we move up above LSU here, the top 24, we've got Cincinnati. Of course, they made the college football playoffs last year and had a really competitive game. Of course, did not get the job done to get to the college championship, but they played really well last year. They're playing well again this year, 4-1 record, despite losing a lot of players to the NFL. Mississippi State here at 23. They had the very nice win over Texas A&M that, really hurt Texas A&M's positioning. They also fell out of the top 25 this week. You see Syracuse goes in and destroys Wagner by 59 points. Washington actually loses to UCLA and drops here down to 6. I'm looking at K-State. They were 25 last week. They're up to 20 now after their 9-point win over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Austin, from 24 to 20, what team in here do you really want to highlight? Is there one, maybe two that you really like here?
Yeah, I think Luke Fickell's teams are always very, very well coached. I think that's obvious looking at Cincinnati. We've seen it last year. A lot of the culmination of great things came together for Luke Fickell's squad. I look at Mississippi State. Will Rogers is one of those guys that is a perfect scheme fit for Mike Leach's air raid offense. They do a great job spreading the ball around. And the thing is, the big criticism for Mike Leach has been he doesn't run the ball enough. He's been trying to make more of an effort this season to do so. Mississippi State at 23 is intriguing. Syracuse obviously picks up a big win over Wagner. But K-State's another team I need to highlight. The Big 12 school is definitely on the map. Adrian Martinez, the Nebraska transfer, has been huge at quarterback for them after losing Skylar Thompson to the draft. They also have Deuce Vaughn, one of the most electric players in the entire country, despite being, he's so small, but he's just super shifty and knows how to really, navigate the holes. And I think when you look at K-State as a whole, this is a tough competitive squad that's definitely going to continue to make more noise.
Right. That Big 12 is really strong this year. And as we go up, you're going to see the number 19 team here is also a Big 12 school in Kansas. At 18, you also have UCLA representing the Pac-12. And then up above that, even one more, we've got TCU at 17 from the Big 12. So again, like I said, the Big 12, very tough and strong this year. Austin, from 19, 18, and 17. I think the biggest thing here is the Big 12 is really good this year. The Pac-12 seems to be back this year. What are you really thinking about those two conferences specifically?
Yeah, I think the Big 12's resurgence is huge. Once again, I think that with them losing out on, Oklahoma, Texas later on, I think that they have to have some big time players step up. Oklahoma State, TCU, big examples of doing so. And the big surprise here is Kansas. Over the last couple of seasons, they've been historically bad, but they've came back with a vengeance this season. I think when you look across the board, they have plenty of playmakers. They have the grit to, really grind out these tough, close games. And I also look at TCU. Lincoln Riley's brother actually is the offensive coordinator for this team. So it's kind of funny to see him get the huge win versus Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy turn of events. I don't think anyone expected TCU to beat Oklahoma by 31 this week, but they went in, took care of business, and they moved up the rankings immensely because of that, moving into the top 16 now. In here, we look at a team like BYU, Wake Forest, who had a really nice convincing win over Florida State in a 10-point victory. North Carolina State, they lost to Clemson by 10. They dropped 4 spots. And Kentucky also drops the ball to Ole Miss, falls down to 13. Oregon moves up to 12 with some of those other teams falling. And the Utes back into the top 11. Of course, they didn't start the year necessarily the way they wanted to, but they're working their way back up the rankings, Austin. From here, 11 to 16, what teams really stick out to you? I know you really like Will Levis. He had a little bit of a finger issue going on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, his one of his fingers was literally 90 degrees from at the knuckle line. So there was definitely a lot of bad things going on with his hand. But however, close game. They end up losing that one. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's squad, definitely a team to be reckoned with at this point in the season. They've done a really good job staying in these close games. So Ole Miss, good team. Once again, Kentucky had an unbelievable start with the 4-0 start. People were not projecting that. They did not see this kind of start for Kentucky at all. North Carolina State, close game. They're always so competitive in that ACC, along with Wake Forest getting the huge win over Florida State. Mike Norvell has done a great job at Florida State with what he's put together. Definitely trying to restore where they were at under Jimbo Fisher. And I think he's doing a good job building up that program, but that's a huge testament to Wake Forest's consistency over the last 2 seasons here. When you look at a guy like Sam Hartman, that's been a true consistent starter in this league.
Right. 11 to 15 here. You see some really good quarterback play from, like you said, Sam Hartman, Will Levis. You also have Bo Nix in Oregon, who's kind of really figured things out after that tumultuous week 1 loss to Georgia. Now, as we move into the top 10, this is where everything gets really interesting. There's a lot of tough competition in here. Penn State at 5-0, probably a good argument that they could be the best or second best team in the Big Ten. Ole Miss at 9. They move up 5 spots after that close and narrow win over Kentucky. Tennessee takes care of business against an unranked Florida team. Now, we did see Florida in the others receiving vote category, so it's not like that Florida team is not a good program. We've seen them in the top 25 multiple times this year as well. So Tennessee, a little battle tested there. Oklahoma State with the 11-point win over Baylor. That was a really big one for them. You see them move up 2 spots there, keeping their hopes at maybe a college football playoffs appearance alive. And then USC, a 17-point win over Arizona State. This 10 through 6 is really tight, really close. A lot of good teams in here. Do you think they got it right here from 6 to 10, Austin?
I think they did a pretty good job. I think when you look at USC being just super talented at the skill positions, and I look at Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy, especially the last 2 seasons here, they've been very, very consistent. Spencer Sanders, I've been incredibly critical on, but at the end of the day, he's been playing very, very well. He's been able to throw the ball more effectively. I look at Tennessee. This is another SEC team that doesn't get enough love, in my opinion, as well as Ole Miss. Ole Miss, we do hear a lot more on. I mean, just because of the polarizing, figure that Lane Kiffin is. But I think those 2 SEC schools are very, very tough, and they're not talked enough about. Penn State, James Franklin's done a terrific job with this program. They recruit well, they play well on Saturdays, and they're a force to be reckoned with in that Big Ten East. So overall, I kind of like what's going on in Penn State. The Big Ten definitely has to pick up the slack a little bit, especially on the western side of that conference there. But the East is very, very well represented, and we're going to see some of those in the next couple here.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys haven't seen Caleb Williams throw from this past week, from the pocket, he throws a jump throw outside of the numbers and completes it. One of the most incredible throws I've seen in college football history. And Austin, no surprise to me that you're hyping up those Tennessee Volunteers a little bit. As we move into the top 5 now, we're looking at some other really good teams in here. We got Clemson in the ACC, Michigan in the Big Ten. Both of those schools at 5-0. Austin, 4-5. You think that those are clearly a tier below the teams that we expect to see in the top 3 here?
Yeah, I mean, I have some concerns about Clemson's offense personally, and Michigan showed out, especially in the run game this past week. Overall, they ran over a very, very stingy Iowa defense. So a lot of credit to them. They're doing a great job, Blake Corum. But Clemson, I do have some concerns about the offense, but the defensive front is loaded with potential NFL starters. I think it's really awesome to see guys like Miles Murphy there. I could continue to see Clemson to climb potentially under Dabo Swinney, but there's not a lot of headspace at the top here. I think they might have kind of hit their peak here, barring anything crazy happening.
Right. This 4-5 positioning is very important as we continue to go on. Obviously, the 4 team gets into the college football playoffs. The 5 team does not. Looking at number 3, we've got Ohio State. They had a 39-point win over Rutgers, probably easily the best team in the Big Ten. I don't think there's much argument to that. Then you have Georgia moving down, actually, and we were wondering if this was going to happen. Of course, they moved down from 1 to 2 after narrowly escaping Missouri on the road by 4 points. And Alabama really walked all over Arkansas this week, 23-point win over what was a ranked opponent, no longer ranked at this point. Both of these schools are 5-0, and I think the main thing on the channel here for these videos, Austin, has been, are they getting number 1 and number 2 right? We really like Georgia over Alabama for most of the year up to this point. Do you think with this recent stretch of games, Georgia belongs at number 2 instead of 1?
Yeah, I mean, this was a little scary for me. The Missouri, if the ball bounces one way different, we very well could be talking about, Alabama being that sole, first place team. But Georgia, at the end of the day, gets the job done. They shouldn't have been playing that close with a team like Missouri. They're so talented along that defense. They have playmakers on offense. Brock Bowers is one of the premier weapons in all of college football at the tight end position. I mean, the guy is literally getting rushing attempts, and it's crazy with how athletic he is. He does not get enough credit for that. But Alabama, I think it's fair to say, after what we've seen so far, Alabama being 1, Georgia 2, this week was a big tipping point with that big statement there, because we've been high on Georgia. We love Georgia, what they have to offer. Also, Alabama is just so tough, so well coached. But at the end of the day, that narrow victory over Missouri was enough to kind of wonder, what's this offense's ceiling with Georgia? I think Alabama's offensive ceiling is a little higher. I think they both have great defenses, but Bryce Young versus Stetson Bennett is a significant drop off, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely a crazy weekend of games like I talked about in the open. Missouri is to Georgia as Texas was to Alabama. Close wins for those programs. We'll see how the rest of the season goes and really plays out for those teams. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment letting us know if you think the AP Top 25 got it right this weekend. Thanks again so much, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.